Good afternoon. It is an honor for me to be here today. Thank you, Susan. I doubt if anybody could ever be Susan's boss. Well, that's just not possible. So the fact that she said that was she was putting some brownie points, but I've never been her boss. Right? But she has served the Law Center so ably in so many different ways that I can't imagine how we would function at the Law Center without her really significant and transformative assistance. So we have here today Aaron and where's Yanni? They're from the very department. Susan ran that department by herself. And we grew so much that I had to bring in four people actually, to run the same department. That just shows you how much we have changed and we have grown. And I want to show a little video, because whenever I go somewhere, it's easy to talk to people, but I want people to see what we're doing. So we want to share a little video of something that we're doing that, again, is impactful in this community because we're part of an ecosystem that I refer to as a communiversity. All right? A communiversity. If we don't reach out to help solve community issues, we're irrelevant. Okay? No matter what else you hear, we're irrelevant as a law center and a higher education institution in this community and in the state and across the nation. So please, you can run that. Yes, should be some.
Taking a closer look at law school leadership, diversity, technology, and collaboration are hallmarks of a new legal culture. Each is crucial to a profession that is the first responder and ultimate defender of the rule of law that applies to all societal members on an equal basis. By taking a closer look at law school leadership, committing to diversity, and utilizing technology to promote access to affordable legal services, Southern University Law Center is preparing the next generation of law professionals to defend and uphold the rule of law, as well as deliver legal services more efficiently, effectively, and to a wider audience. For over 70 years, the Law Center has modeled and produced over 4,000 lawyer leaders who are blazing a trail in the legal profession around the globe, and remains dedicated to educating diverse and underrepresented persons in various socioeconomic areas. Southern University Law Center. Visit sulc.edu to explore our curriculum, get to know our beautiful and lively campus, or apply to enroll.
All right, thank you. So what you saw was what we had to do after COVID. You saw all the shields, you saw the screens. We had to transform the educational environment so that virtually half of our students are in law school and they don't even live in Baton Rouge, and they don't even come to Baton Rouge to go to law school, because they can be in a classroom where they can be virtually somewhere else while we have students in place. And what we had to do was we had to create a safe space so the shields and everything else made us a place where students who wanted to be in person could feel safe. We were very fortunate to be able to get Ochsner Healthcare System to help us design this. And so now this really becomes a model for law schools in the future. We have legal clinics that went virtual. We were still servicing people around the state of Louisiana, but we did it in a virtual way. And now we're going to have to transition back from that virtual world to in-person starting this summer. And we're going to go through another change where we're going to have people realize that the world cannot continue to be virtual. But that's the challenge we face, not only in legal education, but in higher education. So I'm very honored to be here today, and I'm honored because I see so many people who I really have so many ways to connect with. Mr. Warren Burkett has a wife named Dr. Brenda Burkett, who was my toughest teacher in undergraduate school. She came as a new professor and worked me to the You know what? But she prepared me for life after Southern University, and I'm always forever grateful for her dedication because she provided me a model of what, if I were to be in higher education, should be like. She was dedicated to the sole purpose of serving students. And so I always thank her, and it's always a pleasure to see you here today. And we have so many other people. We have Mrs. Messer, who is leading a wonderful Louisiana Association of Independent Colleges and Universities. Kenya has been great as a leader in higher education, and I met her husband, Quentin, many, many years ago, and he's doing wonderful things in economic development. And we have so many other important people. I even have the father of some of my great students here, Mr. Miyako was your daughter, and is your daughter, and she came to Southern University of Los Angeles. In fact, she recruited you to Baton Rouge. Excellent. And so many other partners that we have here. I was listening to the prayer. I was an altar boy for 12 years. All right, so I've been called to say many prayers. My mother taught me the rosary as a small child, and I have always remembered her teaching me the rosary as a prayer that I use many, many days, and it's that kind of thing. So it is this honor that I come to Southern University today. Today we actually had, as part of Founders Month, a Founders Day Convocation that usually was held on March 9th, and they moved it toward the 23rd. And I said, wow, how am I going to be able to do that and be here and so forth and so on? But we worked it out. And then they dropped on me this morning, hey, you're going to do an interview with Channel 9 at about 5:30 in the morning. And Yanni was with me this morning. As I rolled up about 5:15, I said, wow, this is going to be a really long day, but it's going to be a great day. So why is it a great day? It's a great day because we're here as the Southern University Law Center as an institution, as part of a Southern University system that is going to be impactful and has been impactful in Baton Rouge. As Ms. Nelson indicated, we are celebrating our 75th year this year. So in 1947, Southern University Law School opened its doors to a group of young men, 13 of them, African-American males who had never been afforded an opportunity in the 20th century to access legal education in the state of Louisiana. But that happened because one man had the courage, the temerity, to challenge a very pernicious system. His name is Charles Hatfield. Charles Hatfield changed the history of the state of Louisiana because he decided that he wanted to go to law school and he wanted to go in the state of Louisiana, but because he was a graduate of Xavier University of Louisiana, which is the only black or historically black Catholic, Roman Catholic university in the country, he was denied access to legal education at LSU simply because of one reason, because of his race. And rather than brood, cuss, and fuss, he decided to take action. And so he filed a lawsuit in October 1946. And he was represented by a pretty stellar group of lawyers led by Thurgood Marshall. So Thurgood Marshall in 1946 was probably the premier lawyer in America because he was breaking down walls. This week, 50 of our law students were in Washington, D.C. to witness the hearings for confirmation for Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court. The significance of that, of course, is most people talk about first African-American woman to be nominated to the Supreme Court. But in 1967, 20 years after Southern University Law Center was founded, Thurgood Marshall was also going up for confirmation as the first African American to the United States Supreme Court. So the direct line between Charles Hatfield, Thurgood Marshall, and now Ketanji Brown Jackson presented me with an opportunity for our students, especially the students who are women, because remember in that class, there were no women in that first class, to say, you will go to Washington, D.C., and you will witness this historic event on the 75th year of Southern University Law Center. And they have been so enthralled by this opportunity, and you may have seen them on Good Morning America, on CBS Morning News. You may hear them on NPR later today, okay? You may hear about them or have seen them on CNN, the New York Post, the New York Times, the Washington Times, okay? Washington Post, front page of the Houston Chronicle. And so why is that important? Because in today's environment, higher education doesn't have the esteemed place that it used to. And so we have to create constantly value so that it can be shown what a value we are to the people we serve. That is so very, very important. And today I saw Joe Jolison, who took a class with me many years ago called Commercial Paper. He called it the most boring class that you could ever want, but I always made it exciting because I told wonderful stories and made him understand the value of understanding this area of commercial law. So what we do at the Southern University Law Center is we produce lawyer leaders. If we can't produce leaders, then there's no need for us to exist. And so what are examples of lawyer leaders? An example is the CEO of Feeding America, Claire Babineau-Fontenot. And in times like these, during the pandemic, many people are seeing hunger for the first time in their lives. And Feeding America has become the most, in my opinion, important nonprofit in America because it tries to make sure that everybody does not face food insecurity. And there could not be a better person poised to lead that organization. Many people never heard of Feeding America until the last 2 years, and she has stepped up the profile of Feeding America and the work of Feeding America. And that's the essence of the Southern University Law Center. What we do is we tell our students that you can go out and be transformative leaders in whatever you do. Susan Nelson is an example of a transformative leader. Now, she probably was that before she came to the Law Center, but we just helped her and egged her on a little bit more. And so what we are constantly trying to do is we're trying to change the paradigm of how education is delivered so that more people can have access. There's always an argument about there are too many lawyers in the world. Too many lawyers. Well, I say no, there are not enough lawyers. Let me tell you why. Because lawyers do more than litigate. Lawyers do more than sit in judgment. Lawyers help people plan their lives. They help lead organizations. The skills that they acquire are the skills of the backbone of a great nation. And that is why it is so important that in Baton Rouge, we actually have two great legal education institutions that produce lawyer leaders. Ours is one that's unique, was born out of a sin of segregation, but has become a transformative institution where more than half of the law students now are women. Did you hear me? More than half of the law students are women. And during Women's History Month, I can't forget that because we're surrounded by women who are taking charge, who are leading, who are about to do great things. And to show you that impact, I got calls from law students last week, and here's what the conversation was about. Hey, I just got an internship with the National Football League. I could go and do a clerkship with the judge, or I can go to do the National Football League in New York. I said, that's an easy call, National Football League. Why? Because that kind of opportunity may never come again. You see, because we have to continue to break barriers. We have to create new spaces. And we got a call from another one of my law students who is interning for the Brooklyn Nets and said, hey, the Brooklyn Nets just offered me a job. I said, great, take it. Why? Because we are creating pathways where young men and women can see careers that they never imagined. Now, there's a lot of significance about 1947 that I'll tie in with you. In the spring of 1947, the Brooklyn Dodgers were about to introduce a new player in baseball named Jackie Robinson. A great year to start a law school. In India, that nation was becoming an independent nation. A great year to start a law school. And believe it or not, the National Basketball Association was just getting off the ground. In 1947, we were doing the same kinds of things. We were breaking barriers, creating value, changing the way people were thinking and doing. And so when we look at what we do, what we really talk about for us is the experiential learning. We have 14 legal clinics that help people every day solve problems. Ms. Nelson talked about our disaster legal clinic. That disaster legal clinic started out of a crisis. The crisis was Hurricane Katrina had just devastated Mississippi, and then the flood afterwards devastated New Orleans. And I got a call from a guy by the name of John Britton, who was then the general counsel for the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights. And he said, John, I need your help. I said, what do you need my help for, John? He said, we're about to sue the Bush administration. I said, really? He says, yeah, because FEMA hasn't been doing what they're supposed to do. He said, I got one problem. I need to file it in New Orleans, and I can't find any lawyers in New Orleans. They're all gone. They're all evacuated. I said, John, let's hitch it up and let's do it. And so we filed that lawsuit. We filed that lawsuit to protect the rights of individuals who had, because of no fault of their own, were homeless and had no way of helping themselves. And that's how we started this thing about we got to do this as a disaster legal institute. We got to work this thing through. And we started working to helping solve the problems associated with property rights. Because the biggest problem that most people had is that they couldn't get paid benefits because they couldn't prove they owned the property. It's called the Ayers property problem. And we had other organizations like Appleseed and Southeast Louisiana Legal Services that also joined in what we were doing. And that work continued on for years, and then 2016 happened. And then all of a sudden became very real in Baton Rouge, okay? So we continue to do that work, and we've been talking with the Wilson Foundation, and hopefully we'll be able to do something. We just created an entity called the Ayers Property Institute. Why? Because we think it's important to help people solve those problems. If they can't solve those problems, we are always at a time when we're at high risk for disasters. Look at what happened just yesterday in New Orleans. Someone lost their life, and there was a lot of property damage. And who's going to have to come on the scene? FEMA. Because typically the people that get affected the most do not have the independent resources to just pick up and move on. And if they have enough insurance, they have to have a battle with the insurance company about what they should get. So we do this in areas like this. We have a technology and entrepreneurship institute and legal clinic where we help small entrepreneurs who want to get off the ground, help them with their incorporation documents, creating LLCs, even getting them intellectual property protections like a patent or a trademark. And so all of these things are designed to show that we're one with the community, that we can have an impact in ways that most people don't think. So we're not in our ivory tower. We're not in a place where we're not connected to the community. We are connected to the community. Now, you talk about access and opportunity. Susan talked about this evening division. We started that. And actually, the story behind the evening division goes back to another story that's really related. There was a governor who said he wanted to go to law school. He said it probably 5 or 6 times. Nobody took him seriously. Then one day, my boss, the man who hired me, B.K. Agnihotri, came and said to me, "I think that man's serious." He said, "Do you think we could help him?" I said, "Sure we can." I said, "We're in the middle of a higher education desegregation case. I happen to be in the middle of an East Baton Rouge parish school desegregation case. And they gave us the authority to start a part-time program." And I said, "And we've never done it. So let's start it." And we started with a day, and we worked it out. And he had, his people. We had the best security in the world. But he was serious about what he wanted to do. And here was a man in his 60s that was dedicated to doing that, not because he needed to practice law, but he saw the value of furthering his education. And he carried that to help higher education get better funding. He carried it out in a real way. And then we grew, and we finally had the money to do an evening program. We said, we're going to start with an evening program. And we found that there was so much pent-up demand, people wanted to go to law school, that today we have almost 200 law students that are just evening division students. Can you believe that? When I started in our law school in 1990, we only had 300 law students. Today, we have 850 law students. Wow. So my point to you is that as you keep evolving, as you keep making yourself different, you can create opportunities. So here's the next challenge. Folks up in Shreveport have been begging for years, 50 years or so, they tell me. They want a law school in Shreveport because, hey, it's great you got law schools, but they're only in 2 places, Baton Rouge and New Orleans. I said, how fair is that? I said, well, I don't know how fair it is, but do you have a solution? They said, no, we don't have a solution, but we want a law school in Shreveport. I said, okay, we'll take on that challenge. So right now, we are working to develop a branch campus in Shreveport. We're doing it in small steps, but this spring semester, for the first time in the history of the state of Louisiana, 7 law students are studying law in Shreveport in their last semester while they're doing internships and clerkships, because we're going to plant the seed for development of legal education in Shreveport. And it makes sense. You got a whole region of the state that doesn't have access to legal education. Someone from that area of the state has to go 3.5, 4 hours, 5 hours to access legal education. And so we took on that challenge. Now, it may be foolish. I might be like Don Quixote. But guess what? To dream the impossible dream is what we ought to search for. If we can just do things that are possible, what good is that? Right? If you just love your neighbor, what good is that? Love your enemies too, right? My point is that we have to constantly seek a way to grow what we're doing. And we have to continue to invest in higher education every day, because that is the future to economic growth, to social justice, to stability and peace. And so I urge you to understand that what we do at the Southern University Law Center is bigger than bring in some students and teach them about torts and contracts and procedure. What we do is that we are involved in a transformational business. I tell folks we're really in the talent acquisition business. And what do I mean by talent acquisition? We find talent that other people look over, and we help develop them into individuals that will one day lead the very institutions that are necessary in a democratic society. That's what our goal is. That's what our purpose is. And we've been doing that for 75 years, and hopefully we'll continue to do it for another 75 years and beyond that. And so it is really, really a great time to be in legal education, to be in higher education. No one could have written a book that would have said, hey, there's going to be a pandemic for 2 years, and you're not going to be able to do all these kinds of things. And so it has required us to be imaginative leaders, to find solutions to things that we could not have imagined that we needed a solution for. And that is what we do on a day-to-day basis. And so I hear that you're going to have a great social on April 6th, right? I won't be able to be there because on April 6th, we're having an event at at the state capitol, the old state capitol, where we're going to be inducting 12 of our alums who are judges into our Judicial Wall of Fame. Why do I say that? Well, we just ran a study. More than 1/3 of the judges at district court level in the state of Louisiana are Southern University Law Center alums. Yes, more than 1/3. And we also recognize that it's important to have diversity in the judiciary. And so 35 years ago, there was a lady named Janice Clark who was fighting for that. And so she led a group of lawyers to file lawsuits to change how we elected judges in Louisiana. And now Louisiana has one of the most diverse judiciaries in the country. But it takes action by people of courage. The kind of courage that President Zelensky is showing. If you don't believe that's the most courageous man in the world, you have to be out of your mind. A man who could be killed at any moment, who is standing up to a ruthless, power-hungry despot. But he will not abandon his land. He will not abandon his people. And those are the kinds of people that we want to transform and have come through the Southern University Law Center. Someone who will stand up for things that are important, even if other people don't believe they're important. And so I thank you for this opportunity to tell you about what we're doing at Southern University Law Center. Come by and check us out. We're doing great things. We're going to continue to do great things because we are in a community of people that care. And the support that we get from so many different people as we travel along the way is extremely important. So I thank you for this moment. I will open up for questions, and I just thank you.
We We have time for one question.
Talk too long, all right. No question? Yes.
How do you interact with the LSU and Tulane law schools and some of the other?
Very well, especially during the pandemic. One of the big challenges we had to deal with was 2 years ago, we had law students that could not sit in person for a bar exam. It just wouldn't have been possible. So we worked together to say to the powers that be, listen, this is an emergency. These folks don't need to be held up in transition while they're waiting for the great day to come when everybody will be able to come together. So we convinced, and we met a lot of opposition to say, let's give those people diploma privileges. We've done it before in Louisiana. We have had situations during the Korean War and other circumstances where law graduates have been able to practice law after they graduated from school without taking the bar exam. So we really work well on a lot of important issues. And although it may seem that we're in competition with each other, we're really not, because each one of those schools are a different kind of school. Tulane is a Jesuit type private Catholic law school, different kind of students. Tulane is an elite private institution, different kind of student. LSU is a flagship institution, and it plays this role as a flagship institution. We view ourselves as a school of access and opportunity because talent is everywhere. And you can't measure talent by a score or a GPA because there's something that most people miss: grit and resilience. That's what we do. Thank you.